Hello everyone, welcome to Calem Enterprise Training. My name is Clay. Today we're going to cover multi-site access control. Multi-site and access control are part of the functions of Calem Enterprise. Let's look at the multi-sites in Calem Enterprise. There's the EAM company, that would be your company, and the EAM sites, that would be your company's sites. There are customers, that would be your customer companies and your customer sites. There are vendor companies and vendor sites, and manufacturer companies and manufacturer sites. So let's look at the functional classification of all these sites. Your company sites could be an asset sites, service sites, inventory sites, and can also be PO sites. Your customer sites can be asset sites where assets are deployed, and can also be inventory sites. They can also host their own inventory. Your vendor sites can be service sites. They can provide service and do work orders. Your manufacturer sites are not used in any of the functional sites, but they're used for your assets and inventory. Your company, the EAM company, has many defaults and detailed information. So the defaults includes the boilerplate PM plans for corrective work orders and PM work orders, default SAI contract, default time zone locale, and also whether or not to include tag photo in assignment notification. An EAM company, your company can have many sites. A site is a regional office, a facility, or a clinic. It's a small business unit. It's a business unit of your company. You can manage as many sites as needed. So there are sites down here. And your company can also have employees. And there are reserved employees. Admin is for system use. Calem API is for the API. And anonymous user is for anonymous service requests. So you can have many users for your company. And there are also job roles or craft codes for your company. And also the discounted rates for your company and sites. And there are email, work order email opt-out. At the company level, they can be opt-out by category, status, and priority. There are also addresses you can build for your company. Your company can also include document and attachment. An EAM site or one of your site can be created with the site name, and you can set to allow service requests via emails for your site, and you can also set a default technician for your site. There are other defaults for your site, including the asset, work order, and requisition numbering mechanism. So you can have all the work orders for your site being created with a certain numbering, so it's easily identifiable. Same goes for requisition and asset. And there's also boilerplate PM plans for corrective and PM work orders, default service level agreement at the site level, and also the SAI contract. You can also turn off work order emails at the site level. You can do email opt-out at the site level, which overrides the one defined at the EAM company level. And you can define for this EAM site the work order planners and monitors, as well as work order acceptors who can accept work orders. You can define teams for this EAM site. You can also assign people from other sites to this EAM site. so they can be used as resource for this site. The site can also have a document and attachment. There are business lines defined for the site as well. That's for skill match assignment. There are also locations for the site. So let's look at the customer and the vendors. If you look at here, we have a customer, vendor, manufacturer, and site skill. We're going to cover them one by one. So let's look at the customer creation. So you can create a customer by setting its name, phone, email, and a client account code can be used for financial readiness. You can say, without account code set, I will not allow work orders created for this customer. And the customer can have as many sites as you need. And there are also addresses for the customer. And customer can have employees. You can add them here. And some employees can log into Calem if you configure a username and password for them. And you can define custom job rates for this customer, or configure that job rates at the customer site level. You can do the same for spare parts with different rates at the company level or at the site level. You can also opt out work order email notification at the customer company level, and the customer can also have a document and attachment. A customer site can be created with the site name, and you can specify service site who will provide asset service, and also the inventory site for the site, for the customer site. You can enable service request via email. You can also use credit hold and customer number for financial control. In the case, you can say if they're not ready, if credit is on hold or there's no customer number, I'm not going to allow work order created or proceeded for this customer site. A customer site can have a site level defaults. For instance, you have a boilerplate PM plans, you have a work order numbering patterns, default service level contract. These defaults overrides the defaults set at the company level. At the site level, you can also opt out work orders, which overrides the customer level configuration. The customer site can also have the work order planners, monitors, and acceptors. Typically, you set them up for each customer site. There are other data at the customer site level, like documents, business lines, locations. You can also assign people to work for the customer site here. For vendor company, you would specify company name, and when the vendor is created, Calem would create a vendor site for you automatically. And a vendor site can have a service flag to indicate it can be used as work order service site. A vendor has employees, can have a document and an attachment, can have addresses. A vendor site can also have a document and attachment. Manufacturer company is similar to vendor, so when a manufacturer company is created, a manufacturer site is also created with the manufacturer's name. Manufacturer has the same details like the vendor. And let's look at the skill management at the company level and the site level. You can define site level skills. So you can say for a company's skill requirements or site skill requirements. You can then define user level skills. Indicates certain user has a certain skill and a certificate. So this information will be used in work order assignment by skills. You can define a do not send list to set up some technical stuff that typically you do not send to customer sites. And by default, these users in the do not send list won't show up in work order assignment list. You can create users in Calem by set the full name and site. You can also check the is EAM crew flag. And if this flag is checked, and this user can be assigned a work order, they would be showing up as in the assignment list for work orders with this flag checked. You can set up username and a password so the user can be configured for login. You can also set email and SMS email for notification. And a user must have at least one ACL profile. We call it ACL Profile for login. So you can assign many ACL profiles for the user, but at least one is needed for login. A user can be assigned to different sites, and a user can also be assigned to different teams. A user can also have its own opt-out of work order emails by category, status, and priority of work orders. A user can have its own document and attachment, like certificates stuff. And there are other, for access control, we're going to look at the ACL Profile list. And we just look at the user list and PO level, rec level, and change reviewers. They have been discussed. They are the roles for PO requisition and change management. We have discussed already. And the monitor user are the roles for workflow email notifications. So let's look at that first. To create user roles for workflow, you pick the roles. You can pick multiple roles you want to assign when you create user roles for workflow notification. So you can check multiple roles here. Then you check multiple sites to assign the roles to. And then you can pick multiple users to act as roles defined and for the sites selected. So, and inside each monitor user role, you can edit it. You can remove a site so they would receive a notification from all sites. You can also edit a role and add a location so that you only get a notification sent for that location and that site. For instance, you only want to get work order notifications for certain locations, but not all the site. You can use this configuration to do it. Now let's look at the access control. In Calem, access control includes dataset and UI set. Dataset are demonstrated as sites and locations, and UI set are defined as groups in Calem. So the dataset can be EAM sites, customer sites, and locations inside the site. A UI set would include modules, forms, menu, and fields. And the UI set will be discussed in next training module. Today we focus on the dataset. So let's look at the ACL Profile permissions. And there's a customization that you can turn on or off for user, so that user level customization will not be allowed. And there are also data permissions for no insert, edit, and delete. So let's look at the use cases for the ACL Profile permissions. For supervisors and admin users, they normally have all the rights, so none of them is restricted. For technical staff who cannot delete data, you can give the insert and edit rights, but do not allow deletion and customization. For operational staff, and they can only create requests, you just give insertion permission. And for read-only users who just go into the system, look at the information, and you do not give any editing or customization rights. So let's look at ACL Profile creation. So when you create ACL Profile, you specify a name. The name should be meaningful. For instance, my maintenance staff or maintenance supervisors. And you can then set a desktop group, the UI group, a phone group, tablet group, or desktop touch group. So you can specify which group of UI to assign to this ACL Profile. You can then set if you allow all site access. For users you want to give specific sites to access, do not check all site access. You can also configure the profile access whether or not to allow offline client access. You can then set the permissions, deletion, insertion, edit, and customization. Once the ACL Profile is created, you can then move on to define sites allowed for this access, for this ACL Profile. And the company ACL will be adjusted automatically based on the sites added for the ACL Profile. And if you open up ACL site, you can manage locations to allow locations or to exclude locations for this ACL Profile. But normally you either use allow locations or excluded locations, but not both. There are also workout status and service request status control here, but we recommend you to use those status control at the group level, at the UI group level. Will that be discussed later. After the ACL Profile is configured, you can then add users to access to use this ACL Profile. And there are other codes in the organization module, including department, skill, locale, address, cost center, and profit center, and currency. I just want to mention that multi-currency is supported in Calem Enterprise. So you can have one site in the US using US dollar and another site in Canada using Canadian dollars. There are also reports in the multi-site module. You can see that we have user listing, site listing, company listing for vendor and manufacturer, for customer and EAM. So let's look at the hands-on lab. For the multi-site, we'd like for you to create an EAM site, create a customer and a site, a vendor and a site, a manufacturer and a site, then set up what called a monitor and a planner, and what called acceptor, and a SR monitor and a dispatcher. Assign a service technician to 2 sites. For the access control, we like for you to create an ACL Profile for maintenance supervisors, create an ACL Profile for maintenance staff, create a user for login, and set up a username and a password. Assign the 2 ACL Profiles to the user you created. That would be all the training for the multi-site and access control. Next module would be screen and data customization. We like for you to start populating your sites in Calem Enterprise, your customers and sites, your suppliers and sites, so you can start using Calem. Let us know if there are any questions. Thank you.